I'm just here to quickly just kick off the November 9th EAC meeting. So I don't have anything really to do any introductions. It looks like the agenda really speaks itself for a lot of the activities that I think everyone else has a better perspective of presenting here throughout the morning. But I think really just to kind of get this moving quickly, I'll probably just turn it right over to Cheryl, at least to get the attendance done and see who's all here, and also just to double check that the technology is all working here. Just one note, I do have the hand raising tool working, so if you're using that, I should be able to keep up with you through the day, and if not and stuff like that, please go ahead and speak up and let us know you have a question or something. Cheryl?
Thank you, David. This is Cheryl. Just a few housekeeping reminders. Before you speak, please announce your name so that the people on the phone bridge and the interpreters can identify the speakers and that we can keep track of things. We had a lot of people in the last 24 hours who had to decline that did originally intend to come this morning with various sundry weather and family-related things. But thank you to all of you who made it today, and we'll do double work, I guess. So I'll go to the phone bridge for the attendance first. Bernard Aboba, Jim Coleman, Ronnie Cotton, Brian Daly.
Brian Daly's here.
Patrick Donovan will be in and out with us today. Sherry Farina, Mark Fletcher, Kevin Green.
Cheryl, Kevin's on.
Thank you, Kevin. Roger Hickson.
Yes, I'm here.
Brendan Casper, Marte Kinder, Christian Milito, Donna Platt. I see on the video conference. Laura Ruby. Brian Scarpelli, did I see you here? Yes, thank you. So you're not on the bridge. You're in the room. Susan Sherwood. Al Sonnenstrahl. I see on the video bridge.
Here.
Thank you, Al. Greg Vanderheiden will be with us on and off today. Arnold Van Wyck. Joel Zev.
I'm here.
Thank you. And in the room, we have Tony Dunn, Angel Arocho, Jean-Paul Imard, Laurie Flaherty, not here yet, but we expect her.
Cheryl, this is Laurie. I'm actually on the bridge.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Laurie. You are here on the bridge. Eric Hagerson is here. Cheryl King. Oh, Chris Littlewood, I guess, is going to join us later on the bridge. Kathy McMahon. Hillary Martinson. We have Bob Mather. Bruce McFarlane is here. Paul Michaelis is here. Don Mitchell, Peter Musgrove, Richard Ray, Karen Strauss, Mark Stern. So, Mark, there you are. Christian Vogler, Norm Williams. Is there anyone in the room that I did not call your name? Is there anyone else on the bridge that I did not call? Oh,
yes,
Shelley
Gunnar Hafström here.
Oh, Gunnar, yes. Hello, Gunnar. And
Yep.
Shelley
Hi.
Blakeney is here in the room. Shelley, I don't know why I keep missing you. Did you RSVP? You did? All right, then it's my fault you're not on here, not yours. Okay, thank you. And we have Gunnar. Anyone else? Thank you, David. I have the attendance.
All right. Just one other point here before we get started in with the agenda is that we had the minutes that were sent out from the October 12th meeting. I don't know if there are any comments or markups or any other corrections that anybody has read or needed to make to them. If not, then we'll make a motion to accept the minutes. But any comments on the minutes? Okay. Or how about we have I think we just make a motion to accept the minutes. All right.
John Paul moves.
John Paul moves.
Second.
Christian,
second.
I second.
Yeah, okay. All right. Then the minutes are done. Close those down. All right. I think we're going to go ahead and get started with the agenda. We're going to just get right over, and we'll just start with the report on CVA and FCC accessibility activities with Karen. So, Karen, all yours.
Hi, well, welcome everybody. There's not a whole lot to report since last month, so my report is going to be very short, but I wanted to start off by welcoming a new attorney to the Disability Rights Office, Susie Rosen Singleton. If you wouldn't mind raising your hand. And Susie started with us just this last month, and we're delighted to have her. And one of the issues that she'll be working on is this one, hopefully. We've given her so many that I don't know how she's going to have time for all of them, but especially as we see the deployment of text to 911 occurring, there's going to be a lot of need for greater education to the deaf community, and we're hoping that Susie can help with that among other legal issues as well. Again, there's not a whole lot to report on the CVAA. The one thing I do want to say, though, is I want to thank any and all of you who contributed to the provision of accessibility during Hurricane Sandy. We received surprisingly few complaints, especially on closed captioning, a very different result than in prior years, so we were very happy about that. There were a couple of complaints that did come in, and we reached out to the network stations and channels, and the response was almost immediate to rectify the situation. We also made sure that all of the relay providers, telecommunications relay providers around the country, were operating, and they were, and really the overall response to the deaf and hard of hearing community and the blind community was pretty terrific. So we just wanted to say thank you. Other than that, I don't have much to report. Am I to do the report as well on the NG 911 since I don't see Patrick here?
If you would bring us up to date.
There's not much to say on that as well. We are still working on the proceeding. It's still moving. There are some issues that we still want to get resolved, and that's about all that I can tell you at this point. There's not a whole lot more that I could tell you other than that it's still, on the Commission's, one of the things that the Commission would like to get done. Thank you.
This is David. That's items 1 and 2 then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
That's
cool.
it.
All right.
1 and 2.
I'm sorry. Christian has a question.
Okay. This is Christian. Let's have Al go first. This is Al. Karen, I just want you to know that I'm here virtually. I'm in Portugal actually for a week, and on Wednesday morning I was able to follow the election results through CNN's website, over the internet with captions. And I felt very American, even though I was in a foreign land. So I wanted to extend my thanks to Karen and the FCC for making this possible, to have captioning available for me on the internet. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome, but I'm going to shift the thanks to CNN because CNN is not under any legal obligation yet to caption. So they did so voluntarily, and that was pretty terrific. So thank you, CNN. The obligation to caption live programming doesn't go into
Regardless.
It does, just so you know, the obligation to caption live programming that's shown on television with captions doesn't kick in until the end of March. So they moved more quickly than that.
Christian?
But this was on the internet. It wasn't on television. It wasn't broadcast.
Right.
This was on the internet.
Even more voluntary then.
Right, and it was wonderful. It was
Great.
wonderful.
It's real progress.
This is Christian. First, with regards to captioning, I have two comments. I also want to commend C-SPAN. C-SPAN has been doing live captioning, even though they are yet to have that requirement to, but they're also doing captioning on video clips. And I know that's not a requirement at all for video clips, but C-SPAN has really high quality of captioning. I mean, the quality of captioning is a separate issue, but my second comment is at Gallaudet University, where I work, and at Georgetown Law, there is a collaboration going on to evaluate the compliance of captioning among different providers. And I just want to let you know that at this moment it seems pretty good. There are 2 exceptions, and I hope to be able to report on those soon. We're focusing on 911, and as far as 911 goes, I have a question for you. Yesterday I was reading an article on the web that said that AT&T is planning to no longer support the POTS system in rural areas and plan to replace that with internet-based, network-based phone communications. That leads me to 2 questions. The first of which is anyone on the EAC been aware of that? Can anyone on the EAC confirm that? Because if not, that's something that's concerning to me with regards to my second question. And the AT&T, the people who are moving forward and planning that, are they aware of the issues with TTY compliance as part of that transition?
We'd kick it back to the committee for an answer.
This is Cheryl.
Somebody in the back.
I will have to look up that article, and surely there'll be a phasing in period.
Is there anybody
Peter,
from
can
AT&T?
you-
Yeah. Peter.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Someone can respond?
My name is David
Oh, can you go
Talbot.
over to a mic?
Good morning. My name is David Talbot. I'm with AT&T Federal Regulatory. I'm new to the EAC, but I can say that Christian AT&T made a filing on Wednesday morning at the FCC, and I would refer you to that filing rather than to a news article where that filing was made in conjunction with our announcement to expand investment to deploy additional IP broadband capabilities both in urbanized and in rural areas so that we may serve virtually all our service territory with broadband and IP wireless service. So we're not retrenching, we are deploying new and additional services to customers. The filing that was made on Wednesday morning at the FCC proposed that we start a trial for 2 wire centers or a couple of wire centers within the United States where we could learn how we would transition from the time division multiplexing, the POTS network, to the new IP network. But I believe you would have most of your questions answered by reading that filing. I'd be happy to speak with you later after the meeting during the break.
This is Christian. Thank you. And a quick follow-up to that. The reason I've asked is just to clarify that TTYs over VoIP networks experience a whole plethora of issues, so we have to make sure that everyone is aware of that, and that issue is included in any planning for expanding VoIP networks.
Okay, we have a question from Gunnar. Go ahead, Gunnar.
Yeah, thanks. Gunnar Hellström here. First, Mostly, I think we are aware of that this was about to happen. I think even FCC is involved in planning of the close down of PSTN. So, and yes, it will cause problems for the TTY. It will raise the importance of our subgroup 6 that handles TTY transition, and I want everybody to read the draft report we have from that with the plans for replacements going over IP for the TTY. I can also say that we have had a similar event in Sweden, and there was a lot of efforts to make it not influence text telephony badly, but of course when it once happened, it still caused problems for the text phone users. It was in rural areas that the wires were taken down and it was replaced with other technologies, and it didn't work for text telephonies, and people are used to their old text phones and are not easily just jumping over to new technologies. So, but it will take some years before it is done in USA, and just keep the replacement of TTY on the agenda and make it properly planned. So I think it will be a good move. Thanks.
Thank you, Gunnar. Brian Daly, you have a question, and then Peter. So Brian,
yeah.
Peter?
And then
Yeah. This is Brian Daly of AT&T. More of a comment than a question. Just to follow up with Dave's comment, there also is the FCC Technological Advisory Council that has a group looking at the overall PSTN transition, as it's called, and there are 2 working groups under that have been looking at this and will be developing sets of recommendations to go to the FCC as well. Part of that is a recognition and an understanding of the public safety issues surrounding any transition of the PSTN, and there is focus on that within that group under the TAC. So I just wanted to reassure everybody that the issues regarding public safety, TTY, all of that is recognized in the transition work being looked at by the TAC, is being taken into account, and certainly is part of the overall discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Peter?
My comment.
Oh, never mind. Brian covered that. Paul?
There we go. Hi, this is Paul Michaelis with Avaya. I was asked to take a few moments to describe what our Internet Protocol technology is moving toward within the systems that Avaya manufactures, both for PSAP 911 contact centers and also for general contact centers. And in case you're not aware, Avaya is a major manufacturer of contact center equipment. So, for example, if you call into Bank of America and get one of the agents there, you're actually using Avaya equipment. If you call into USA Insurance, that's Avaya equipment. What we are finding with regard to traditional BAUDO, TTY, and IP is that network conditions that would not be harmful to voice communication or not even be noticeable in voice communication can cause TTY character errors to become so high that the device is no longer usable. So, for example, it is very common in Internet Protocol networks, especially on wide area networks, to use audio compression techniques in order to squeeze as many voice conversations onto the line as possible. A coding such as what's called G.729 is used for this purpose. That is a voice-optimized encoder. If you try to run TTY BAUDO tones through a G.729 encoding mechanism, the tones tend to distort. Similarly, what's referred to as packet loss on a voice over IP network at levels that would not be noticeable with voice are sufficient to cause the TTY character error rate to become so high that it's unusable. Just for the sake of illustration, if we're talking now about US format 45 baud O tones, even if you have no audio compression, a packet loss rate of just 0.12%, and that is a darn good network. 0.12% packet loss rate will put your T2I character error rate above the 1% level that the FCC recommends as being the maximum that should be allowed. In addition, if you have what's referred to as inappropriate echo cancellation, which is necessary in voice communication, echo cancellation can cause problems with the TTY. And so, for this reason, we at Avaya are moving actively away from architectures in which we try to transport baud O tones within our IP networks. And this includes our 911 contact center architecture. We're moving instead toward a real-time text protocol in which we're sending text characters, text packets, rather than baud O tones. We will be using a protocol that Gunnar helped invent. We're moving toward using what's called RFC 4103, real-time text protocol, or a variation of that. But again, this is a protocol that Gunnar Hellstrom is co-developer of, co-inventor of. We are moving toward that mechanism. We're going to be transporting real-time text packets within our IP networks as opposed to trying to transmit baud O tones. Just as an aside, it is an unfortunate reality that in order for me to get funding, research and development funding to get something built, I have to demonstrate that we have customers for it. And so one of the things I've been pushing very actively is all of the different capabilities that we could provide to our general customers if we had a real-time text capability. So just as an example, let's say that, as we've seen here, that this conference is being captioned. So imagine now, if you're like me and always stuck having to do multitasking, imagine now on your telephone that you could participate in two teleconferences at once. You're participating by voice in one conference, and you're getting the streaming captions of the other conference streaming by on your phone. And you could toggle back and forth which conference you're doing by voice, which you're doing by text. This becomes immediately feasible, easy to implement, if you're running an IP network that's got a real-time text capability such as the RFC 4103 that Gunnar helped invent. So this is an example of the kind of capability that I'm pushing within Avaya as an economic justification for building support for real-time text on our networks. One other point I want to get to has to do with the gateway we would have between our IP networks, including our 911 centers, and the PSTN, where you still have traditional baud O TTYs. Our next generation PSTN gateways, we're building in sufficient audio processing horsepower to be able to transcode at our PSTN gateways between baud O TTY on the PSTN side of the gate and the real-time text characters on the IP side of the gate, such that you'll still be able to communicate with all of our systems if you're still running baud O TTY. Again, it would be the gateway between our IP infrastructure and the PSTN where the transcoding will occur. And we're moving actively toward that style of architecture.
What is your timing?
I'm not allowed to tell you.
Okay.
But we are working on it. And in fact, we're working actively with Gunnar to get some of the technologies. And also we're working with Tenacity Corporation that you may be aware of. Because they already have RFC 4103 based desktop clients that we've already certified on our networks as being compliant.
Thanks, Paul. I think Christian may have a comment to your question. So, Christian.
Yes, first of all, I want to really extend my thanks to you, Paul, and to Gunnar. You both have done some amazing work recently, and what you've submitted to the EAC technical subcommittees, I think, has been outstanding. I've seen some wonderful technical write-ups about the TTY over VoIP, and I'm often find myself showing those to other folks to help them understand the issue because they're so well written and so clear. It's really been outstanding work. Second, I think for RFC 4103, I can't specifically talk about why I know that, but I do know that more vendors are implementing RFC 4103. So again, I want to thank you for your advocacy for that. Some vendors are not yet convinced that in-band Bordeaux causes problems. It seems that some of them have run their own tests which haven't borne that out. I've been trying to tell them that it's looking fine because you've been testing internal to your network. As soon as you go into a real-world situation, it's going to look very different. I've heard reports from some people about VoIP specifically, about providers trying to switch phone lines from PSTN over to VoIP lines, and they've found that it just breaks TTYs. Although these providers are in some cases still trying to encourage people to switch over and use their TTY over VoIP, but we have to push these vendors into the gateway, into the transcoding between Bordeaux tones and RFC 4103. We really have to continue to advocate for that.
Thank you, Christian. I think Paul has a comment.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much for your comments. It's good to hear that what we've written is of value to you. With regard specifically to in-band transmission of Bordeaux tones on IP networks, yes, if you are running uncompressed G.711 and have a robust network such that you're not encountering any packet loss, that works fine. What we are seeing in the real world, as opposed to the laboratory, is that especially when we've built a system for enterprises, for businesses in which they have different locations that are connected by a wide area network, it's typically over the wide area network as opposed to communication within a specific building. It's over the wide area network where we are seeing issues related to packet loss and audio compression. And again, because enterprises typically do not have good control over the quality of service on the wide area networks, in particular because they want to save money by using audio compression over the wide area networks, it's in the real world where we're seeing in-band Bordeaux transmission breaking down. It works fine in my lab, but we know that's not a real-world situation.
Thank you, Paul. I don't see anything else on the hand-raising tour, any hands here, questions. So, Karen, thanks for the quick, brief update. So I'm going to move right along to the next item on the agenda, and it's going to be Richard, Cheryl, and Tony talking a little bit about the report on Access Hawaii. Oh, wow, this ought to be nice. Access Hawaii. So I'll turn it over to, I don't know who's kicking it off. First. Richard.
That's not a problem. I'll start, and you two can jump in as you see fit. The conference in Hawaii was fantastic.
APCO, Nina.
APCO, the Association of People, Public Safety Communications Officials, and the National Emergency Numbering Association, NENA. And the State 911 folks in Hawaii actually hosted a day-long conference in Honolulu. And the theme of the conference had to do with accessibility for people who are deaf and hard of hearing and deaf-blind and their access to 911. There were some great presenters. We actually had some folks from the FCC there presenting. the Deputy Chief of Public Safety and Homeland Security. Zenji.
Very good. I can't pronounce his last name.
Nakazami. Sorry, interpreters are struggling with the names here a little bit. That was the keynote speaker for the conference, and it was a really fantastic keynote. And then there were several breakout sessions. Theory Becoming Reality was one of them. There was also a session on public access to 911 across the generational divide, and I thought that was particularly interesting. That was another keynote speaker. Jason Ryan Dorsey, that was a very young man, but he was of the Y, Generation Y. And he published a book and was on a talk show, was on 2020, was featured on 60 Minutes. And I was impressed because he was so young, but yet he had been published and been in the media. And he talked about, how we interact cross-generationally. And he's actually working on the 5th generation. He's done his research on 4 generations thus far. The Honorary Governor of Hawaii, Neil Abercrombie, was there as well. And presented several awards to people who had contributed substantially to next generation technologies. And so it was really an honor to have the governor there as well. There was a video shown of Marlee Matlin that we will actually show later as well, so you'll be able to see that. We did have a session on accommodations, dealing with special needs for people with disabilities and their access to 911. And I want to talk a little bit more about what happened at the end of the conference. The last session was the plan for the future. It was still in regard to access to 911. There was one representative of an organization who was deaf who gave a demonstration on how deaf people gain access to 911 using the video relay service. And we saw glaring problems. How long it took them to reach 911 and the issues with being routed and how that's still a problem that we face today. It was a great conference. I mean, I think overall it was fantastic. I don't know if either of you would like to put your 2 cents in.
This is Cheryl. I'll go next, and then Tony can just segue into the video. How about that? Yes, Tony and I were on a panel, and Jim Sukup of Durham, North Carolina, and the panel was moderated by Brian Fontes of NINA. I reported on the EAC, told them all about our work, et cetera, and we had a lot of really good interest and questions after the panel. The room was full of police, fire, and ocean rescue folks, and the telecommunicators from the PSAPs. As Richard mentioned, there were a congressional delegation and their staffs were there. Hawaii was proud to claim to be the only state where their congressional delegation had 100% membership on the Congressional NG 911 caucus. And so they were very proud of that. And Senator Inouye just happens to be the chairman of the Appropriations Committee, so he let them know that he was available and his ear was open and available for them to speak with about appropriations. It was a very good event, and they really want to move forward. Tony? Oh, Richard?
I just want to add one comment there. The 911 Caucus for the state of Hawaii has ensured that their state is going to become a model for the nation in terms of their process for instituting NG 911. So they said they stand ready to serve as a model, and they are working to improve their service in the public interest. And again, they're ready to face the rest of the nation and stand as a role model. So I think that's great.
Thank you. So that was what I was going to add, Richard. So kudos to the state of Hawaii for their, give your name, please. Oh, sorry, this is Tony Dunn. Just want to thank Hawaii for their generosity to the guests that came to speak with them. They were very gracious hosts, and kudos for their interest in becoming that model for our nation. And I fully expect that they are going to be moving forward very soon with next-gen capabilities. With regards to our presence there, Intrado provided a video that we filmed to provide education to demonstrate the needs of the citizens who need to be able to text in order to get emergency services provided to them. And so we filmed this video, and it also demonstrates the availability of text to 911 right now. And we use it for also public education. And I'll be talking a little bit more about some public education efforts that we are doing in Texas. But let's go ahead and cue up this video so that everyone can see it. And thank you for your attention.
So not only is it like a gorgeous place to live, but they're all progressive. So how could you possibly argue? I think I would have stayed there. I would have lost my time.
Alice Mourn was on the phone with the 911 dispatcher when she was shot and killed by her husband.
I had often wondered why it wouldn't be possible that you could text to 911 if there was an emergency. I would think that this is the one barrier that wouldn't be out there, but unfortunately, 911 is not accessible. It is one of the most critical numbers one should have access to, and yet we can't text to 911. I don't get it.
My thoughts about text messaging with the current technology that's available, I think we definitely need to go ahead and implement that now. What realistically are we waiting for? We don't have access to 911.
We went forward with it, and it has not been a problem. Again, we started out very slow, and we made sure that the public knew that calling 911, voice calling to 911 was still the preferred method.
There was an accident, and I knew, being that I couldn't use the phone, I had to, at the same time, get attention to this emergency. I was with my daughter. She was 4 at the time. And I looked to her because she could hear, but I thought maybe perhaps we could use the service. But I didn't feel I should have to depend on her. I had to give her the phone to talk. And I had to explain that I was deaf, and I had to explain that there was an accident. I had to explain my location. And my daughter looked at me and thought, you know what? She couldn't interpret. She was only 4. And this clearly was a situation where I could have benefited. I mean, if I had 911, then maybe that could have been taken care of by texting. I would imagine that 911 texting would benefit each and every person who has access to cell technology, anyone who has a phone. It's not only for people with disabilities. Absolutely not. It's a barrier, though, that once we eliminate, it's for all people. Texting to 911 technology is available today, and this technology can save lives, not only for the deaf or hard of hearing or speech impaired, but for anyone who is unable to safely make a call to 911. Intrado would like to encourage government agencies, communication companies, and public safety departments to take immediate action to bring this life-saving capability to citizens in their communities. Thank you.
This is Cheryl. I just wanted to say that when I saw this in Hawaii, I asked Tony and Mary if they could come and provide that to us here today, because I think it's very strong and demonstrates a lot of information that needs to be out there when we get to the outreach and education portion of the rollout. Bruce?
Bruce McFarland, Fairfax County OEM. Is this tape going to be available like on the internet or someplace where literally I can show it to our PSAP folks in Fairfax County?
This is Cheryl. I'm not going to put Intrado on that spot. Oh, okay. You might talk with her offline, but they had to get permission to show it here. Their arrangement with the performers and whatever. But talk to her offline. But yes, it's very powerful. Thank you, Tony. Go ahead.
So this truly does demonstrate what we can do with campaigns, public education campaigns, utilizing some well-known faces to us and to the public at large. So I look forward to speaking with you if you have an interest in this later. Thank you.
No. Were there any questions? Comments? Good. Well, we're not ready to break for lunch. So this is Cheryl. I will give you a piece of information that I promised you. I'm deploying to New York and New Jersey on Sunday with FEMA for emergency response and recovery for people with disabilities. I'll be acting as a disability integration advisor, and there are 5 feds. 2 of them are already on the ground up there. Richard DeVelder of the Department of Transportation, you may know him from California. Brian Parsons, who is with the Department of Homeland Security's Office of Civil Rights and Civil Liberties. They're already up there in New York, working with the Joint Field Office and the regional disability integration specialists and other parties that are a part of a team there to respond to accessibility and other needs for people with disabilities as a result of the Superstorm Sandy. I will continue to be available on email, and Karen has, of course, always been a generous, supportive person for us. And as we go through the rest of the year, I think that it'll be okay to me to be away for this time, because there's such a need up there for people with disabilities. So,
and first of all, we obviously applaud Cheryl for doing this. And Cheryl's modest, but she's done this before. She did it in Hurricane Katrina as well, after Hurricane Katrina. And again, you can feel free to call upon me and Susie. I'm volunteering her as as she sits there. But she has been brought up to speed, and she's being brought up to speed on these issues. As a consumer herself, she's very familiar with the importance of these issues, and so you won't be left in the lurch. We're moving ahead with the committee, etc. So that's it.
Everything, the rechartering, continuing our work. As you see by the agenda, we're focusing on that outreach and education piece that we know we need to get to. And there was a meeting and conference effort with folks in North Texas this week, and we'll hear, I think, about that a little bit later as well. Christian, did you have a question?
Yes, I just had a brief comment. It's not necessarily related to the EAAC's work, but to emergency preparedness in general. There are representatives of various organizations here. But my comment is about the CMAS, Mobile Emergency Alert System. I'm very pleased to see progress with that system from a variety of carriers. But I do want to make a request for two things. First of all, it is too difficult to find information about who supports the system and who doesn't, which carriers. And I have to know exactly what I'm looking for as someone who's very technically inclined to find support, and most folks are not as technically inclined, so if that information could be made more easily available, that would be helpful. My second request would be to step up efforts to support the system on more carriers, on a variety of carriers. For example, I know my phone, excuse me, I'm having trouble getting this out. My phone has hardware support for sure, but some of the software is not up to speed and able to support the system. So my request would be to step up the efforts in order to provide the support, the mobile support for that. This is Norm. I'd like to add on to what Christian was saying. I have an iPhone 5, and I use Verizon as my carrier. And I see a setting there that says government alerts. Government alerts is already on, but I have yet to receive even one message, not even while Hurricane Sandy was in our area.
Okay. This is Cheryl.
Sorry, Cheryl, one moment.
Okay.
Christian's saying,
sorry.
I think that has to do with the location. If you're local to Maryland, you'll get alerts from Maryland.
This is Cheryl, yes. The CMAS, the Commercial Mobile Alert System, is in the purview of our Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau. I'll put an email out to the folks who work on that and raise your concerns, Christian, and we'll see, where we can go from there.
No, I see a couple hands coming up in the room too, but I also wanted to, Joel and Gunnar also had their hand raising, so I just want to go to Joel and then Gunnar, and then move it over.
Yeah, Joel Zev. I'm really glad that Cheryl's coming up to visit New York. I have a couple comments I'd like to make. We've been through a major event here that really cut off thousands and thousands of people from communication. All the federal officials and government officials at every level have been great on television and emails and getting the message out. But the reality is we had a power failure for 5 days, and there was no communication. And all the new telephone systems all have battery power, and that goes out after about 8 hours. So the telephone systems were down, and 911 was not working. The only people that had telephone, and I'm one of them, was a guy who reinstalled an old-fashioned copper line into my house that runs on DC power run by Verizon, and that never went down. But every else we have was down. The second point is that most older people, over 75 and 80, do not use IP, do not have the ability to use text, do not go on a computer, and we still have this legacy group that's going to be here for about another 15 or so years that we really need to be thinking about and getting communication out there two-way. None of them would be getting the information regarding where the shelters are or where the storm's coming, because the television's great, the captioning's great, but the power went out. And when the power goes out, television went down, computers went down, everything went down, and I found myself very, very isolated, even in my own house with all the fancies that I have. I know this is emergency management, and we really have to be thinking about this, but we really need to be looking at ways, alternative ways to communicate, and as we did, I think, last spring, blue sky, and figure out some other methods other than just the traditional. And last comment is everybody in the room has been growing up with computers, and we're all very computer literate, and we use this. But the reality is there's a lot of other people still out there that are not, and we still have to keep this on our agenda. I've been trying for a long time to keep that on the agenda. It's very hard, but that's just the reality that we're facing right now. We learned it tremendously just through this last couple weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Gunnar?
Yeah, Gunnar Hellström here. Thanks. While we are reporting about the outside world, I want to tell about an Interop event that Nina has arranged and took place a couple of weeks ago in Chicago at the Institute of Technology in Illinois, and it was about accessibility, and we saw a lot of the technologies that we are discussing in EAC live working in this event with, I think, 22 vendors, mainly from the 911 industry, getting together. We had more people from our group there. We had Norman and Christian and Roger and me. And it's good to see that technology exists in reality also, that we are talking about. There are news to read about this in Nina web pages. Thanks.
Thank you, Gunnar. Mark?
Mark Stern here from Purple Communications. I wanted to comment about something that Norman had commented on, your experience with iPhone 5. I live in New Jersey, and I'm 2 miles from New York City, and we were without power for a week. My iPhone 5 also did not show any government alerts, but one nice thing, and again, this is specific to generational access, is, I had access to Facebook and Twitter, and so I got a lot of quality information through those updates, and I felt like I was really able to keep up with what was happening with the hurricane through those venues.
Thanks, Mark. That's a good point. Christian?
This is Christian. I have a response to that as well. Social media did a phenomenal job of disseminating information to people, so it was really great to see that. Unfortunately, there was some misinformation spread through those channels as well. But just to let you know that the FCC has another committee called CISRIC. It's Communication Security, Reliability, and Interoperability Council. And there's a working group focused on emergency alerts and particular alerting folks through social media and how to improve the dissemination of information via social media channels. So the FCC and industry is also very aware of the issues. And I'm part of that group.
Thank you, Christian. Is there any other comments? Anyone to add, Cheryl? I think we were talking a little about the next agenda item. You have anything else you want to add? You got to keep us posted on how things are progressing and what's going on?
Sure.
Yeah, our lunch isn't here yet, so let's not waste our time. We can move right into at least an overview of what we're going to do this afternoon. The agenda has an open discussion on planning and training for a rollout of text to 911. And as you've heard me say in the past, there are three constituencies involved: the public safety community, consumer community, and industry community. And each one has not only special roles, responsibilities, and dependencies on the text to 911, but they interact and they interchange and they support and counter the others. Perhaps we can have someone report to us on the North Texas events of the week. Wednesday, a North Texas group worked with consumers, and then on Thursday, I believe the carriers were involved, and it was outreach and training focused. Would anyone volunteer to give us a report on that? Tony, thank you.
I can update on that.
Who is that?
Roger Hickson.
Oh, great, Roger. Okay. Tony, and then Roger.
No. Well, if somebody's going to do it, then I don't need to do it.
We can't hear you, Roger. Go ahead, Tony.
If somebody's going to do it, then I don't need to do it.
Okay. Well, Roger, this is Tony Dunn. If you have anything to add, please do. I just wanted to start the conversation off. North Central Texas Council of Governments is getting ready to roll out a trial, text to 911 trial, and the director of that program is Christy Williams, and she is the second vice president of NENA, and very involved with public education campaigns as well. And she wanted to make sure that when they get ready to do this trial, that they're doing it in a effective way to educate the citizens, and to make sure that they're doing it where in a way that will also help areas in her region that are not doing the text trial. So she wants to, make sure that there's not confusion between the areas. And what they did was they invited representatives from the deaf community as well as some PSAP personnel to a meeting on Wednesday to talk about the public education message and what we needed to do for that. She also invited representatives from NENA, which Roger Hickson, of course, was there, as well as the chairs of the Public Education and Training Committee and the Next Gen, I believe I'm not sure what the exact title of Sherry's committee is, but it's Next Gen Public Education and education as well. So NENA's very involved with looking at, what's going to be the best message and how to do that, and we're trying to make sure that it's a consistent message across the board. And that's why Christy brought everybody together, utilizing the deaf and hard of hearing communities that were represented there to kind of work out the catch message that would be used or be recommended to be used across the board. And the final result was call if you can, text if you can't. So we needed a clear and concise message that could be utilized in public education media forms, materials, collateral, etc. And that's what the deaf community felt would work for them, and something that could work for the hearing community as well. So it was very important not to have two separate messages for the various entities out there. There was some other discussions about what other kinds of instruction could we provide to the public, and especially with regards to abbreviations and using the emoticons and things like that people do when they're texting today. We've always said within NENA that we don't want to have abbreviations used, and so the message that they came up with was text in full, simple words. So we had to look for a way that that the deaf community representatives were satisfied with, that everyone within the community would understand what that meant, regardless if you're hearing or deaf, and what level of English competency you had and whatnot. So those were the two things that came out of the meeting. Christy Williams' program has, I think, 42 or 43 PSAPs in her region. They're starting with one county, Wise County, and she indicated that they would be trialing several solutions to, before they make their final determination on what they're going to do for their region. They are one of the biggest regions or councils of government with PSAPs in Texas. They're one of the biggest. And so what happens there is going to be, looked at from other councils of government and Texas entities, as well as probably the nation. So I know that that they had a meeting the following day, yesterday, with the carriers, and they were going to be presenting some information to the carriers. I was not at that meeting because I was on my way here. So I know that I think Brian Daly was at that meeting, and there may be some other carriers that also attended. So I would open it to them to discuss that.
Thank you, Tony. That might be great. I see Susan Sherwood from Verizon on the hand raised. Susan?
Yes, this is Susan Sherwood, Verizon Wireless. I just wanted one slight clarification in that it's not a trial. It's a first office application that will lead directly into a commercial deployment. So that's all I wanted to say.
Excellent, Susan. Thank you. This is Cheryl.
This is Roger Hickson. Actually, the North Central Texas COG does describe it as a trial, but I agree with Susan that that's basically what it actually is. In the carrier session, the types of communications that were discussed the previous day were discussed again with the carrier group that was there. And 2 or 3 messages had been put together the previous day, one of which was based upon what Verizon currently uses, and there was a suggestion for a slight modification to it, which the carriers are going to take a look at. But basically it was a very positive session with the carriers in regard to the future managing of all of this. Some of the material discussed in both sessions are things that we've identified in the EAC Subcommittee 1 in the PSAP subgroup relative to the need for response messages when, for instance, a text message gets sent, but it's not possible to deliver it to an appropriate PSAP, or there's some other problem in how what response should be sent back to the texter to make them aware of that. And that even gets into questions about, what time frame does that happen in? Does it happen in 10 seconds? Does it happen in 20 seconds? Does it happen in a minute and a half? And work will have to be done to figure out the best approach to things of that nature. But what happened in North Central Texas yesterday will be a good set of input both to the EAC work as well as to educational capabilities for a national perspective. As Tony mentioned, it's highly desirable, obviously, to have very consistent messaging and clarity of that messaging involved in the text process as people use text for emergency communications. Done at my end.
Thank you. I think Matt Gerst has a question or comment. Matt?
Thanks. Matt Gerst with CTIA. I also attended the North Central Texas meeting yesterday and found it very helpful. 2 points I'd like to add to this discussion. One is the messages that were brought back from the meeting from the day before, I think would have benefited from having everyone in the same room talking at the same time about these issues. It seemed to be information was collected one day, presented the next day, and then asked for feedback, when I think, as we do here in the EAC, we have the opportunity to directly engage on the issues. And I think a lot of the discussion around some of the complicated issues with providing this service are issues that we've already discussed here. For instance, Tony mentioned that the potential slogan could be, call if you can, text if you can't. It really is a good summation of, how, of letting people know when and where the service potentially is available. The issue that was brought up, though, is what's text? What does that mean? And that, there may need to be some additional messaging around how to define what is going to be available when. We're talking about SMS as a 911 solution. Does everyone know when an SMS means text and when a non-SMS doesn't mean text in this case? And so that, it seems like it's a more complicated issue than the slogan, which is a good summation of the issue. But as I mentioned and Roger mentioned, it was a very positive discussion, and the industry is very much interested in continuing to engage and talk about how to educate both the public and the PSAP community about what the capabilities are and going to be. And certainly you would benefit from having everyone at the table talking on all the issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. And any other comments or questions? All right, no one on the hand-raising tool. I think we are ready to stop at this point, and lunch is here. So what time do you want to come back? 12:30? Let's. You want 1 hour? 12:45?
12:30?
Let's go for 12:30. Try to move us along a little bit.
Get out a little early on a Friday.
Yeah, so 45 minutes. We'll see you at 12:30 Eastern Time.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is David Zumba. We're going to get started in about 5 seconds. Okay, 5 seconds are up. All right. So we're going to move on into the afternoon session, and we have really works in progress with two of the subcommittees here. I don't know if this is did you want to review other subcommittees here, Cheryl? I apologize. Okay. So we're going to move basically into the two subcommittees here on the agenda, which is Subcommittee 1.
Oh, no, wait, we haven't. We haven't
I thought we
finished.
did that before lunch.
No, that was just the preview.
Oh my goodness, I am off target here. My apologies, everyone. We're going to start with the open discussion on planning and training for the rollout of Text 911. I thought we talked about that, so all right. Cheryl, did you have some comments on that part? Okay, we're going to move with that section.
Yeah, it's been one of those weeks. But we had the agenda developed like this so that we could actually focus on the three distinct groups. The consumers will have a viewpoint that both public safety and then the carriers will benefit from understanding and hopefully employing some of the strategies that could come out of a development of a consumer effort. And likewise, the PSAP personnel will benefit from training and education on issues particular to the carriers and their delivery of text to 911, and in training and education on aspects from the consumer side. And then the wireless service providers, they have specific requirements and needs
that it will be useful for both the PSAPs to understand and the consumers to understand. And as I think Matt pointed out this morning, this is a great forum because we have representatives of all of those distinct groups here, and this can be a forum where we can help solicit that information exchange and benefit the system when it gets here. Just a brief reminder that we had been working on. Well, I'll back up even further than I was to back up to the survey that the EAC created and conducted, and then wrote a report on. And then, after the survey report was completed and submitted, this group developed subcommittees and worked on an outline for the recommendations, and included in that effort a report section that worked to inform all of the communities that are stakeholders in Text to 911. And just as a reminder, that in March, this advisory committee sponsored the exhibition fair of Text to 911 technologies and applications. We saw 10 vendors and their products. We met and we talked with carriers and PSAP folks from NENA comes to Washington. And then we met in March, and this committee adopted a motion to support SMS as a minimum with the short code 911 for Text to 911. And shortly after that, we had an announcement from a major carrier that they would be moving to adopt Text to 911, that's Verizon, that would adopt Text to 911 in 2013. Then AT&T followed with its announcement that it would do the same. It would be rolling out a Text to 911 in 2013. And so the snowball just kept moving, and it was moving in a direction that we certainly supported. It was toward providing Text to 911. So we have to stop and look at what else do we need to do to prepare all three of the stakeholder communities. We heard a report that the North Texas Council of Governments held a meeting with the consumers and then the carriers. So they're moving forward. In June, the FCC had a stakeholder facilitated discussion, and we just touched the tip of the iceberg in June, and now we need to get back to work on this to provide a system that all stakeholders can support and benefit from. So I do want to open it up for discussion if this is something that we need to, consider and come back to. But what type of format could we develop in order to provide this guidance to the three areas of stakeholders? Would it be a task force structure? Would we want to consider, tiger teams or some other format of working group that would prepare something to share with the other area groups, the consumers, the public safety, and the carriers? I'd like to open it up now, I guess, for some discussion and suggestions on how we would like to proceed on developing that sort of effort. Christian, you're about to raise your hand. No.
Yes and no.
This is Roger Hickson.
I have to admit that at this point I don't have any specific ideas, but from the consumer's perspective, one issue that needs to be worked out is how to educate consumers on the availability of text to 911, to let them know what the limitations are. For example, in one location, text to 911 may fail, and they may get a return message telling them that their text has not gone through and giving them further instruction on how to proceed. But I think we're dealing with people with a variety of skills and a variety of technical knowledge and a plethora of options in terms of technological solutions. So maybe establishing a committee to look at that issue is not enough. Maybe we need to collect data from consumers directly to talk about what kinds of messages, what kinds of formats work for them, and also look at what is not working. And then we have to figure out how would we actually collect that data.
Thanks. I think John Paul, I'll get to you. I think Roger, you spoke up to speak.
Yeah, I did. This is Roger Hickson, Nina. Let me make a semi-neutral statement, and then let me make a positive one. I think the key to this is how and who's going to manage it. Right now, I think we are in danger of multiple parties and groups trying to do overlapping things in different ways to accomplish what is presumably the same objective. So either EAC, Subcommittee 1, some other group, whatever, needs to take on overall structuring and not managing per se, but at least directivity, if you will, toward what's happening. Or EAC or the FCC needs to make some definitions to farm out that work to appropriate groups who can do it. We already have at NENA for some time some committee work going on that's aimed at public education and PSAP education relative to text and other issues, including apps and things of that nature. That has legs under it. It probably has more legs under it after the North Central Texas meetings in the last 2 days. Frankly, that got impetus through Christy Williams by having attended a meeting at the FCC in which there was discussion about education needs. And Christy is a person who will take that and run with it, and that's fine. She's running with it in terms of what's already going on at NENA, but also from the standpoint of her particular area of 14 counties in Texas. And at the meeting, she stated very clearly that the intention here was to serve as not only a work group for the North Central Texas COG counties, but also to do that work in such a way that it could be a model or a source of basic information and direction for the rest of the country. And that's all oriented to the NENA committee process as well. How we bring that together in terms of, dare I say it, a project management approach in regard to getting not only the interim text mechanism developed and deployable, but also how to deploy it effectively and how to manage the process of deploying it is, to me, the real question that's behind the scenes here. So, I don't know whether the FCC wants to act as that project management point or whether they want the EAC to act as that project management point for deployment and education and so on, or whether they want to assign that role to other organizations such as NINA NAPCO, that's the kind of thing that needs to be discussed and worked out, it seems to me. Otherwise, we'll have multiple carriers, multiple organizations, and multiple efforts all aimed at different paths to the supposed same end result, and it'll be, well, not chaos, but it'll be messy. So some upfront organization of that is essential in my mind. Over to you.
Thanks, Roger. I think there's some nods going on here, but John Paul?
Thank you, David. I guess I'm a little confused, and I have to agree with both Christian and with Roger when it comes to who's in charge. And quite frankly, I thought I attended a meeting in this very room a couple months ago, run by the FCC, stating that they were taking the bull by the horns relative to educating the consumer, the consuming public of text to 911. Or at least there was that intent. And to now see, I guess I don't know what you're asking, Cheryl, of us as the EAC. Do we support or can we provide support to the FCC effort that's being done within the consumer group? Or are we taking on yet another task and draining resources from the work that we already have at hand, and we're trying to move the ball forward? So I'm just a little confused, I guess.
Yeah, this is Cheryl. Yes, I believe you're referring to the June meeting that the FCC did convene on outreach. Is that the one you mean, John Paul?
Yeah, I didn't think it was that long ago.
Yeah, June
Okay.
28th, yeah.
Okay.
And we did. We wanted to get the word out that this was a need and that the FCC was certainly interested in being an actor in that. Many people recall the DTV transition, the outreach efforts that the FCC did. And back when there was the national EAS test in November of, was it 2011? Year ago. The FCC did significant outreach there to the deaf and hard of hearing community because they were especially a targeted community that needed to understand that there was a test coming and what it would entail. And the FCC would certainly expect to stand up and be able to fill a similar role for text to 911. What I have been concerned about is if the public safety community puts together a strategy without input from both the carriers and the consumers, then it's going to be an incomplete strategy. And the same would be to the carriers. Again, even though we have been saying over and over and over again, the text to 911 message, a bounce back message, has to be disability appropriate. We're still seeing suggestions for messages that say, please make a voice call. There's not text to 911 available in this location at this time. And so even though we know there are these three disparate communities, I'm concerned that there's not enough overlap yet that we're hearing. And so we're not going to have an optimal outreach campaign if we aren't comprehensive. Is my observation, and why I bring that to you today. So is there further discussion?
Yeah, Cheryl, this is Roger Hickson. I agree with that. There was discussion yesterday in Texas about a modification to that message to make it more appropriate to the consumer community. I have to tell you, and excuse me for putting it this way, I have to tell you that the problem here is based on the fact that we don't have an organized view of the entire effort. Because everybody has their perception of what this involves, and they're all piece parts of the same whole. And the whole is not defined. If the FCC wants to take the lead on consumer education, and they want NENA and APCO jointly to take the lead on PSAP education, and they want CTI to take the lead on carrier implementation, and we have a project team and it involves all those three parties to get that organized and defined and completed, then we got a shot. But if we keep on saying, you do whatever you're doing, we do whatever we're doing, and we don't talk together except on Subcommittee 1 calls, that is primarily oriented, currently, to getting the actual mechanism defined and available, which it should be doing. That's the primary goal at this point in time. But we also have to look at these other things in parallel and farm them out, if you will, to the appropriate parties and require that they communicate and coordinate and manage this as an overall national project. And right now, we don't have a project manager for that overall national project because that overall national project isn't down on paper someplace where everybody can look at it, comment, and come to a consensus conclusion as to how it should be done. It's pure project management to me.
Roger, this is Karen.
People like to do things by the seat of their pants, but that doesn't get it done in a short time frame with the right end result the first time. That's what we need here.
Roger, this is Karen. I think you raised some really good points, and let me take them back also to the Public Safety Bureau as well. And I think it's worth trying to have some coordination. We've been very busy in the drafting of the item as well, and so we have not been focusing as much on national outreach, but this is moving very quickly, in terms of the deployment. So why don't we get back to you? But yes, we would agree that the goal is to have a coordinated effort.
Yeah, I'm not taking anybody to task. I'm just saying that we haven't fully recognized as an overall group what the full set of activities are for this and what, sequence and time frame they need to be accomplished.
I think that's right.
Because if you do it in serial, it takes forever. If you do it in parallel with an organized approach, you got a shot. So everybody's busy. Nobody's at fault here. It's just that we haven't, as a group, I don't think, whatever that group is defined to be, haven't really done the full job of defining what has to be done when and how to get that accomplished.
I have something to say here. This is Donna speaking, and I guess I wanted to make sure, I have a few points about the situation. I have three things. First is the NENA Access Committee. I have been asked by the General Education and Training Commission for about the messaging for people in general when they try to text to the PSAP. They say, and when they say that that's not available, and so I guess they want to make one messaging system that can apply to everyone, and it will be able to apply for anyone who is hearing, who is deaf, who is hard of hearing, who can speak, who can't. Instead of having just a specific group, they want to have one that it will be in a simple language. And I guess to me, it seems that there are a few people who are on the general ed training committee, but they're not from. There's not anyone from Texas. So we need someone who can lead that meeting. We had one last Wednesday and Thursday. And the second thing is also that, you're right, I know that we will say it and we'll probably hear it again and again and again, but we need to discuss who is responsible for distributing this information to the consumers, because the PSAP is not available to do that. And so, or, is it the carrier or is it the PSAP or, so I guess that's something that needs to be resolved as well. And third, I guess the most important, we need to emphasize is the education to our consumers. We need to, we'll need to explain to them. Some of them will, do understand the text aspect, but some of them don't, and I think we need to do that on the national level and on the local level. I think it depends on the location, too, and what kind of program that they are using. Because the consumers need to be aware that not everywhere in this country uses the same programs. I think they need to be aware of that as well. So I think education is something, public and general information is something that's also very important on the national and local levels.
Thanks, Doug. I think Christian wanted to make a comment, and then Brian Daly. And Roger maybe too?
No, I'm not at the moment, no.
Christian and Brian.
This is Christian speaking. I wanted to say that I agreed with the comments that Roger made, that we need a nationwide effort and a group at the national level that's responsible for really guiding this particular issue. I can't necessarily point to which organization or which group should be doing that job. I think all of the stakeholders will accept what comes from a nationwide effort. There are several FCC committees that are currently working on the issue, and it's not only limited to what impacts the FCC, but also, as we've talked about, public safety and other stakeholders, equipment providers and manufacturers. But one general theme that I hear again and again, regardless, is that the decisions that we make impact the other folks as part of the equation. We can't make those decisions without their input. We may come up with a solution that's beyond the scope of the FCC and not something that we can regulate. I don't want us to do outreach for 911 without knowing all of the factors involved, without having a nationwide effort and a cohesive response. I think it's really critical to make sure that all of the stakeholders are able to have access to all of that information so that we don't end up having this discussion about scope.
Thank you, Christian. Brian Daly?
Yes, thank you, David. This is Brian Daly of AT&T. I want to go back to what Donna had mentioned. I agree with the discussion that it's very important to have a nationwide common message that's delivered. With regard to the message that comes back when a user attempts to text to 911, the ATIS standards work in progress is a good forum to making sure we document overall architectures as well as what that message back should be in a standardized format. And I just want to add ATIS into the mix to make sure that we get standards-based solutions included in this so that when vendors build product, they have a standard to fall back on. When carriers deploy solutions, there's a standard to fall back by. And the other thing I should mention is, Donna was exactly right. You can't rely on a PSAP that doesn't accept text to send that message back. But we also need to think about who the various text service providers will be. Again, I'm going to expand it. There is the carrier-based SMS, but there are other text solutions as well that need to be considered, and how they would report back to the consumer that attempts to use those methods for texting to 911. And the overall architectures that's developed in ATIS has considered this, and it is part of that standards effort. And I think we all need to work together to make sure it becomes a nationwide standards-based solution, interoperable, and as Christian had mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. I don't know if Cheryl or Karen has any follow-up questions or anything on that. Or all right. I don't have anyone else on the hand-raising tool.
All right. Well, this is Cheryl.
Roger Hickson,
Roger, go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Cheryl. Well, I was just going to agree with Brian, more or less. I mean, the full complement of who's involved in this certainly includes the standards group that's doing the standard for the interim SMS text solution. And there's lots of interactions that need to take place there, one of which is what type of messaging does the system need to do under what circumstances. We've defined that partly in concept, not necessarily in detail at this point, but that has to be interactive with the standards effort and everything else that's going on. So, over to you.
Anything else on there?
This is Cheryl. I don't hear any resolution or concrete action steps for us to follow up on this discussion. Everyone agrees, but I think we need to have some resolution of what kind of a structure we would contemplate to move forward. Roger's used the example of project management, and that's a good one as far as I'm concerned. It's just that from my position and observation, if we had 3 rooms, each with a group of carriers, and one with carriers and one with PSAPs and one with consumers, and we gave them the same charge to come out with a strategy and a text, we'd let them work for an hour or 2 and come back, and I guarantee you that it would be different. It would be 3 different outcomes, and that's what concerns me, because we have to have some cross-pollination and agreement to arrive at some common strategies, or we're not going to be successful in what we're aiming to do in getting the text to 911 capability out. So maybe we need to contemplate this further. We can do some email traffic and teleconferences if anyone would like to volunteer on help and plan even where we'll go from here. I will be glad to take this on. I can do it teleconference-wise from wherever I am until we can get something established to give us all some structure and some guidelines. Is there any objection to my doing that? I don't see any objections. How about on the bridge? How does that seem?
It's Roger Hickson. I certainly don't object to it, obviously, because that's what I'm talking about.
Right. Okay.
I will obviously take part in that effort.
Okay. All right.
And as Matt Gerst said earlier, I mean, it's got to be an integrated process. It can't be 3 different groups working independently.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I have something to say as well. Donna here.
Go ahead, Donna.
I think it's a great idea, for a teleconference. I wouldn't mind joining that, but I guess I would suggest that you can contact 2 people from NENA, from the education and training too, because they've already been working on that messaging for automatic answering. And I guess I would be happy to give you those 2 people's contact information.
That would be great.
As would I. Obviously, it's a NENA committee group, so I know about it. And was involved in the Dallas meetings myself personally.
Okay.
And who was that, Roger?
Yeah.
Was involved with NENA?
Well, I am
okay,
NENA.
Okay, great.
And I was at the Dallas meetings where that work down there was done. And actually, I did the invitations out to the carriers on their behalf, so I'm definitely involved in that. And those groups have been working since early this year on various piece parts of getting ready for this process. So they have to be integrated into the overall effort that deals with this.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, we have Tony's name too as well for volunteering. Okay. I don't see any additional hands up or hand raising hands up. Well, never mind. We have one from Gunnar. Go ahead, Gunnar.
Yeah.
Move on.
Okay. Gunnar Hellström here. About this standard for messages during the dialogue, there are many more occasions than when you fail to convey a message that must be handled. And we have been discussing at least three kinds of reception mechanism at the PSAPs that might result in need for different messages, but also a need for trying to keep these three kinds of reception mechanisms as equal as possible for the users. It is the TTY for the legacy PSAPs, it's the interim mechanism, and it is the hopefully NG 911 mechanism. For the user, it is of course best if they don't see very much difference, but it's also a bit tricky to achieve that, and that must be reflected in this standards work.
Thank you, Gunnar. Go ahead, Christian.
This is Christian, and a very brief comment to that. The consumer groups are, i.e. Donna and my group, we have seriously been considering that issue as well, and we would like to make a recommendation that the message related to the TTY usage, the text to 911, when it calls through TTY, that discussion be further postponed until we can look at the kinds of messaging to see if there's any other way of putting in what other information that we need to know from the consumer point of view.
Matt's got his hand up.
Matt Gerst.
This is Matt Gerst, CTX. Christian, can you just elaborate on that a little bit more? I'm not sure I understood your point about confusion on is it the technological translation from a text message to TTY, or is it a education issue? I'm not quite sure what you were saying.
Well, what I meant is the issue of the text to 911. If the gateway is such that it's going to the PSAP, is it automatic? Is it going to a network-based approach? And what is the rate of transfer speed? So we want to make sure that we know what might transpire, and if this such that the consumer ends up having to wait when they do the text to 911, and that's going through a TTY, we're expecting that that's going to take a delay, that's going to take a longer time. And if that happens, the consumer texting to 911 is going to be waiting for a response. And so we need some kind of mechanism, some kind of message back to the user saying, please hold, your call is being transmitted, so please be patient. That's what I'm referring to.
All right, thank you. I don't see any other hands up or anything else. I think we're getting ready to move on to the subcommittee activities now. So on the agenda, I have first one up is Subcommittee 3, the PSAP Sign Language and Other Communications Assistance with Donna and Chris. I think it's, go ahead and turn it over to, I know Donna's on. I don't remember if Chris is here or not. So Donna and Chris, all yours.
Okay, so this is Donna speaking. Speaking through an interpreter. I do apologize, but Chris, I guess I haven't gotten together with them yet, and it seems that Chris is still working on accommodating the draft, and the two of us are waiting for feedback from several people. So once again, I guess I do want to make sure that I clarify the purpose of this document. It's for, I guess, it's for future generations of 911, and it's where we would be able to call straight through to the PSAP using a video phone, any kind of video phone program. It would go directly to the PSAP, and then the consumer would be directly connected to, or the PSAP, the interpreter, would directly connect us to the specialist, the call center. And those people would have in-depth training in handling 911 calls. And, I have a message that Richard Ray would like to make a comment, so I'll turn it over to Richard.
No. Richard speaking. No, I'm fine. I'm sorry, I was looking elsewhere. I missed your last comment. But no, I do not have anything to say at this point. But thank you.
Oh, I got a message that Richard wanted to say something. Richard wanted to make a comment about the video interpreters.
No. Donna, what I'd done was I'd sent you a message asking for clarification.
All right, who's
for
speaking now?
EVSLCA.
The interpreter was asking you?
This is Cheryl. This is Cheryl. Donna, yes, that was Richard speaking through an interpreter. He does not have anything to add at this point.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I'm sorry, maybe there was a misunderstanding. I'm sorry. I guess Chris would, he would appreciate your feedback and when you view the document. And I guess, we hope to clean it up and complete it soon, and so that we can distribute it to the committee for feedback. I know this is a work in progress, but hopefully, I guess we hope that the EAC will give Richard more time so that we can clean it up and make it as great as it can be. And so we really would appreciate any of your comments to or changes that you think that we should make to the document, and we look forward to hearing your feedback on the next draft.
Go ahead. Christian has a question or comment.
This is Christian speaking. Hello? This is Christian speaking, and I have a question for you, Donna. I understand that the group has been focusing on NG 911, and I had heard from you that there were some concerns submitted about the transfer from the current system to NG 911, and so we've been talking with the VRS providers about many of these issues. Now, the calls from VRS going into the 911 is something that has been experiencing significant delay, but there's no good technical reason for that. In fact, when I talk to some of these providers, they say that yes, they are working on the solutions, but what they have in fact been doing has been nothing. It seems that the technical solutions are there, but the providers are not making that a priority. So I don't know if that's something that can be put into the document or something that can be made available as part of the interim solution between now and the NG 911.
Okay. This is Donna speaking again. I do remember that the discussion about that last month, and you had brought that up then. I guess I'm surprised that Chris got. I know that he was considering collecting those documents. And while you get the new draft, I know he was looking to collect information about that, but with the new draft, I will add that. So that is, and because that is a good concern and a good point to bring up during the transition. And also, and for the next generation, I guess, the individual choice, whoever they want to call, whatever relay service they want to call, that should be fine. And it should be fine if they want to call directly to the relay service or directly to 911, but whatever it is, it should be that they should have a contract specialist or a call center who focuses, on those things, on video interpreting, and has, in-depth experience and training on it, and I guess that would be a choice that we should give to the consumers, but that is something that I think we do need to add to our document.
Donna, did you have anything else you wanted to add to the subcommittee discussion?
Nope, that's it. That seems to be it. Thank you very much. Thanks for listening, and please do offer any feedback that you have to our document. We do need it. We would love your input.
All right, thank you, Donna. The action was received. I think everyone is nodding that they received that there's feedback to the subcommittee on their document if you have some comments or input to that. All right, that'll wrap up a little bit, at least right now, for subcommittee. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Gunnar here. Oh. I have some input. There is work initiated in 3GPP, the service group SA1, about this topic to enable call that involves both an interpreter and a PSAP and get that automatically done. It's in early stage. It will hopefully be finished by release 12, the next release. All other novice-related things are well on the way in 3GPP, but this one was lagging behind and is taken care of now.
Thank you, Gunnar. All right, let's move on. The subcommittee number 1 is the NG 911 mobile text to 911 solutions. Says, I'm just reading the title, includes a report on ATIS standards and assumptions, SMS 911. I think Brian Daly is going to kick this off, and I think there's a slide set that goes with this, so I need to turn on Cheryl's computer for the slides, please.
This is Brian Daly. Yes, David, I'll be presenting today.
All right, perfect. Go ahead.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. On behalf of Greg and myself as co-leads for the Interim Text to 911 Working Group, I'd like to present the report from activities we've done. If we could move to the next slide, please. Okay, I'm getting a delay on the video feed. I'm not sure. Oh, there we go. Okay. So this slide just is a refresher of what the work group is chartered to do. There's meant to be no more new information on this slide. We are charged with developing a recommendation and draft language to present to the full committee with regard to pre-NG 911 mobile text to 911 solutions. And there's various provisions that came out of the recommendations that are related to the work that we're doing. I won't go through those. I'm sorry?
You're doing fine. Keep going.
Okay, I thought I heard somebody interrupt. I won't go through these. These were presented at the report conclusion, and there's nothing new in there. So if we can have the next slide, please.
Hey, Brian, this is David. They are showing pretty quickly here, so just...
Okay, I'll just move along. I'll follow on my own then. So some of the facts from the working group that we're looking at, certainly we've got the resolution that we support an interim solution to text to 911 at a minimum, SMS and other technologies as appropriate with the 3-digit short code 911. That's the basic fact that this working group is running with, and all the other facts really are in support of that. There's a fact here of using any number beside 911 creates a problem for the user not being able to know what number to use at any given location that they happen to be in when an emergency occurs. There also are some challenges for 911 in the fact that there may be network and or handset challenges that or handset modifications that need to take place so that the 3-digit 911 code can be used, and also that any strategies to accelerate one or the other may be needed to prevent a delay or labeling conforming handsets to make it clear which ones are conforming or not. The short-term solution is not subject to all the requirements of 911 voice calls, and long-term solutions that can be implemented in the near term and without reworking the carrier handset or PSAPs extensively. Next slide. Some additional facts. We need to work with consumers and industry to secure liability protection for all entities, as one of the items that have been discussed. We do believe that SMS is the critical first step in the mobile text solution. The consumers believe that. There are other text methods that should be considered in addition to SMS once SMS is up and operating. And these other text formats are those that people use every day. So it would be good to also support direct calls to 911 using those other solutions as well. And that would be solutions that look like SMS but use other protocols, what we've been loosely calling over-the-top solutions. Some may be based on IM, instant messaging, or real-time text formats. Others use IP transport data and can't be detected by the originating networks. And some originating network information may not be available to those solutions. We believe that if the solution is not available to all people with or without disabilities, then it would be too complicated for carriers and others to qualify some people as eligible and others as ineligible. So we need to make sure that we have a generalized solution, and we are, continuing to take this up as developing this separate report on the topic. And again, from a consumer standpoint, it's recognized that direct access via SMS to 911 is a critical short-term goal. Next slide. As far as our work group progress, we have an overall working group schedule developed. We've had sub-team leaders calls that were held to address progress. We've been holding roughly bi-weekly calls of the subcommittee. Although last week we were interrupted due to Sandy and had to postpone the call into this week. We've created a drafting team to develop the report, which consists of the sub-team leadership. We've got Dwayne Sennett as the document editor, and Matt Gerst from CTIA is also participating. We've got several focus areas that we're looking at: the user originating device, the originating networks, the transport networks, and the PSAP end. As I reported last time with our draft recommendations and conclusions, and we've got a report outline developed. Next slide. I know this is going to be a bit difficult to read, but due to some of the progress that was disrupted by Sandy, we've had a slight change to the schedule. We had hoped to have delivered a draft report at this meeting and then have the final report in December. However, because of Sandy, we were unable to get the draft report complete for this meeting. So our goal on our schedule changes have shown that we will deliver the report at the December meeting and just have that one review round, and then in January have the final report discussion at the January meeting. So overall, we have not slipped the schedule. We've just compressed it so that we just have one deliverable into the full committee, and that will occur at the December meeting. Next slide. Just give you a brief overview of the report outline and what's contained in there. We have an executive summary, followed by an overview, followed by user needs and constraints, And then we talk about the originating devices and networks, the transport networks, including the text control center that's being defined in the ATIS standards, and then the PSAP end. We look at any issues, any actions need to build this, and address what is not already in place, come with our conclusions, and finally recommendations. And we'll have a number of appendices that will contain glossary, use cases, and so forth. Next slide. So to go into the report details, the first overview section will talk about how it relates to the long term, what the charge of the committee was, what it became and why, that is the committee and the solution, and any use cases, a summary of what the use cases are. The user needs and constraints section will talk about the text communication method, devices, and the user experience or the user's call flow. Next slide. The originating devices and networks will talk about how the 911 call may originate with the user in the originating network, and users will both originate calls and receive callbacks from the PSAP, so the users must be able to receive emergency calls as well as make them. It's bidirectional. And include any conversations needed at the border of originating networks where they meet the transport networks. Next slide. The transport networks include the text control center, and this is where a lot of the ATIS standards will come into play, is that interface between the originating network and the transport networks. And it will include any conversations needed at the border of the transport networks where the interface with the PSAPs or PSAP networks as well. And again, the text control center is being defined in the joint ATIS-TIF effort on SMS to 911. Next slide. And then finally on the PSAP end, we'll be looking at both legacy PSAPs, next generation PSAPs, and PSAP networks that would receive those text messages. Next slide. The issues section, we intend to address proprietary interim solutions, opportunities and issues with that, responsibilities and policy, who is responsible for what, both to get it built, to maintain it, and also to pay for it. Next slide. So the way ahead for our team, the drafting team is going to continue writing sections of the report. The interim text to 911 subcommittee will review and comment to the draft text. We plan to present the report in the December 14th meeting with the full committee review and comment. And then the final subcommittee recommendations report will be presented in the January meeting. David, Cheryl, that concludes the presentation and status update of our subcommittee.
Thank you, Brian. We'll open it up for comments and questions. Paul?
There we go. This is Paul Michaelis with Avaya. A quick question. Right now, there's an expectation that all PSAP call takers be TTY enabled. Is there going to be a similar expectation that all call takers be SMS enabled?
This is Brian Daly. Maybe if I can turn that to Roger Hickson. Roger?
Yeah, we're looking at, this is Roger Hickson, subgroup 4, which deals with the PSAP considerations involved here, are looking at how that can be managed, if you will. There's a desire on the part of the PSAP community to not be forced PSAP by PSAP to take text. The alternative to that is for PSAPs in a given area to settle on a primary PSAP that will take text and coordinate it with the appropriate dispatch points and things of that nature. The issue of whether and how all PSAP areas will be covered in a short time frame for deployment is not a simple exercise, to say the least. But my personal view is that if we're going to deploy a national SMS 911 solution, that every part of the country needs to be able to handle receiving that text in whatever organizational manner that that PSAP community chooses to use. We already have as part of the objectives here that whatever means the PSAP the PSAP is going to take the text calls at least, has available to them will be how the TCC unit will access them to deliver and receive messages. So if a given receiving PSAP can only do TTY, then the concept, as I understand it at this point in time, is that the TCC would convert that to BOTO and send it to the PSAP, probably through the E91 system that supports them. It could be done directly, but it's probably messier to do it that way. If the PSAP or a set of PSAPs have converted to an IP network locally that has a gateway that can receive this on an IP basis, then the TCC would be able to do it that way. If the PSAP or a set of PSAPs, a regional area, for instance, has implemented something that's close enough to NG911 in its full scope to receive it through that process, then the TCC would send it oriented to that approach. But yeah, the assumption here is that every PSAP can take TTY. Some PSAPs may move beyond that and can receive it in some other method. And the whole administration process of identifying what those interface methods are, keeping them on record, and providing a means in the standard for the TCC to utilize that information to determine how to send and receive text messages is part of the concept and design here.
Okay, Roger, I think the response is wow, and I think Paul has a comment back or some questions to follow up on that, and then we'll come to Matt after that.
Okay, Paul Michaelis
Donna,
again.
I have some comments too.
Okay. Is that Donna?
I just want to put myself on the list to be able to say I have some comments.
All right, well, let's finish up with Paul, then you'll come over to you.
Paul Michaelis again, a quick follow-up question. Assuming that I send an SMS that is received by a call taker at a PSAP, and they respond to me by a text, how do I ensure that my follow-on text message goes to the same call taker? Has that been considered? I know it's going to go to the same PSAP based on what you've described, but how do I make sure it goes to the same call taker?
Oh, yes, I see what your distinction is there, yeah. Well, in theory, the TCC is supposed to recognize how to accomplish that and maintain the conversation back and forth between the same two parties, the texter and the PSAP call taker. I don't know the details of how the standard's being designed to accomplish that, but that's the objective as I believe it's set up.
Yeah, this is Brian Daly. Let me just interject in there. That is part of the requirements of the TCC that are being developed in the joint ATIS-TIA specifications, and that is an important point that has to be made, that it does have to go to the same call taker so that you maintain the continuity of the conversation.
This is Donna. I'm sorry to interrupt you guys. What is the PCC?
This is Brian Daly. The TCC is the Text Control Center. You can think of it as the processing unit in the architecture that receives the text message from the originating network and handles all the interactions with the PSAP.
Okay, gotcha.
Thanks, Don. Okay, I think Brian, go ahead, and I think Paul may still have a couple. He's fine. Okay, I have a question from Matt Gerst here, though.
Matt Gerst, CTI. I just wanted to point out, Paul, you're asking the technological version of a policy question, which is, even with this technology that's going to be rolling out, with PSAPs having the ability to choose the method in which they receive, or even their ability and whether they can or want to receive these types of messages, there is a concern out there about understanding among, or managing expectations among users of where this service is going to be available. And absent action from the DOJ, this is going to have to be a state-level coordination, as Roger pointed out, that's already being deployed in some areas to designate potentially alternative primary PSAPs, but that's also on the assumption that at that level they can coordinate that issue and designate a primary PSAP. So I just want to point out, and this is something that hopefully we'll address in the report, at least in some respects, that even as this technology is rolling out potentially nationally, it's subject to a PSAP election. And if it's subject to a PSAP election, that means there's not going to be a switch that's flipped nationally to turn the service on. It's going to develop on a PSAP by PSAP basis, and that is an area of potential concern. Thanks.
I don't see any other hands up or anything on the hand-raising tool. I think we call for public comment. I don't see any public comment. I'll kick it. Cheryl, I think you wanted to say something?
Nope.
Oh, you grabbed the mic, sorry.
Just wanted to be ready. If there is no other business, then I think we could probably adjourn early. Oh, yes, December 14th. Are you sure you all want to come to Washington in December? All right, we'll do it.
This is David. I think the EAC Subcommittee 1 there has their report they're going to be sending or submitting that day, or hopefully a few days ahead of time. They'll have a chance to read it and ask questions when they're there. I think Christian has a comment. Go ahead, Christian.
And Gunnar also.
And then Gunnar.
With regards to December 14th, I strongly hope to see a good in-person discussion of subgroup reports, because my experience has been that it's difficult for us to all get together to talk about things in person, and it's really important that we have that FaceTime so that we can address some of those important issues. So I really do think that meeting on December 14th is crucial.
Thank you. Go ahead, Gunnar.
Yeah, Gunnar here. I just want to advertise again about the TTY transition group. We have just launched a new draft version of the report. It is available in the EAC web, where we have all the old reports as well. I have only announced this for the TTY transition group, but it may be good for everybody to have a look at this TTY transition with the proposals for replacement of TTY and the reasoning around it. The new things there in the new release is more a sharpening up of what are the actual technology proposals for replacements, pointing out GSMA profiles that are existing and hopefully in development for TTY replacement in the IMS world. So that's a new thing, and sharpening up some other words so that it can hopefully be the final release if it's only reviewed by the group members. Thanks.
Thank you, Gunnar. I would have to say that Gunnar does a good job of posting up the documents to the server and stuff. So, thank you, Gunnar. Any other comments or questions? I think we agreed there's a December 14th meeting, so buy your tickets now. Other than that, I don't know if Richard has any final comments. I think we also want to thank Intrado for lunch and the morning coffee and all that stuff. And Tony's already gone, but I beat Richard too. So anything else, Richard, you'd like to add?
No, not at all. Thank you.
Cheryl?
Nope.
It's a wrap, folks. We're done. Have a good
Thank you
weekend.
all. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, bye.